The real history of Anne Boleyn, the queen that still walks the Tower of London. On the 19th of May, 1536, at 8 o'clock in the morning, a Queen of England was executed on Tower Green, inside the Tower of London. Her name was Anne Boleyn. She was the second wife of King Henry VIII. She had been queen for less than 3 years. The executioner was brought over from Calais specifically for the task. He was a swordsman, not an axeman. His name was Jean Rambaud. The decision was made personally by Henry, her husband, to ensure the killing was clean. Anne Boleyn was buried that same day, in an unmarked grave, in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, inside the tower walls. For nearly 500 years since, staff, guards and visitors of the Tower of London have reported the same figure. A woman in a dark 16th century gown, walking the corridor outside the chapel, walking towards the place where her body was buried. This is the case of the Tower of London. This is Occult Case Files. The Tower of London was begun by William the Conqueror in 1078. It is one of the oldest standing fortresses in Britain. In its 947 years, it has served as a royal residence, a treasury, a menagerie, an armory, and most famously, a prison. Over 22,000 people have been held within its walls. At least 112 were executed there. But of all the figures associated with the tower's long history, one returns more often than any other: Anne Boleyn. She is, by general agreement of historians of the supernatural, the most reported ghost in British history. The descriptions of her are consistent across 400 years. A dark Tudor gown, a pale face, walking the corridor near the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula. The most well-documented account was published in 1860. The witness was Captain Edmund Lenthal Swifte. Swifte was the keeper of the crown jewels. He lived inside the tower for nearly 40 years. In a written account, Swifte described what happened one evening in 1817 while seated for dinner with his wife and her sister. He wrote that his wife suddenly cried out, "Good God, what is that?" He looked towards her line of sight. Above the dining table, hovering in the air, was a cylinder of pale blue and white light, approximately the size of a man's arm. When it passed behind his wife's shoulder, she fell forward into her chair, screaming. The cylinder then vanished into the wall. Swifte's account was signed under his own name. He was a senior officer, and his testimony was never retracted. The connection to Anne Boleyn is one made by later historians. The jewel house sits directly above the burial site of Anne Boleyn. In 1876, Queen Victoria ordered the restoration of the chapel. During the works, the unmarked graves were excavated. The remains of Anne Boleyn were identified by the cut marks on her vertebrae, the clean single cut of a swordsman's blade. Her remains were reburied beneath a marble pavement near the altar. The marble slab bearing her name is visible today. After the restoration, the sightings did not stop. By the end of the 19th century, multiple yeoman warders filed informal reports. Today, the Tower of London receives over 3 million visitors. But after the gates close, the yeoman warders are the only ones inside. Their accounts continue to grow, as the ghost of the executed queen remains a permanent resident of the tower. But there is something the records of the tower do not contain. There is no photograph of her. There is no recording of her voice. There is no description signed in her own hand. Anne Boleyn left no portrait that we can prove was painted while she lived. Every painting of her face was made after her death. Every account of her appearance was written by men who survived her. The only thing we have left of Anne Boleyn is the marble slab inside the chapel and the figure that walks the corridor outside it. If you have visited the Tower of London, or if you have stood inside the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, drop your experience in the comments. For more cases, subscribe to Occult Case Files. This is the case of Anne Boleyn, and we will return to it.